Singapore Airlines first class suite can cost $23,000 round trip.
I feel like a James Bond villain.
It's one of the most expensive plane tickets in the world.
Oh yeah, top me off. Thank you.
I spent 40 hours flying from New York City to Singapore and back in 3 different cabins. Premium economy, business, and first. And then here you've got a little vanity mirror to compare the seats, service, food, and bathrooms.
Come on in. I mean, literally, this is like bigger than my first apartment in New York.
I even met some YouTube celebrities on the way.
And we've got some pretty awesome neighbors.
How's it going? Hey.
All to see if the more premium seats are really worth the bigger bucks. First up, we'll start with premium economy. I flew this cabin from Singapore to Frankfurt on the A380. Round trip costs about $3,500, while one-way comes in around $2,000. The airline tells me usually premium economy passengers trade up from regular economy, which can be $800 cheaper for a one-way. I got to Changi Airport super early to enjoy some of its famous amenities. Security was really fast because it's right at your gate. With my ticket, I also got priority boarding over regular economy. Economy takes up the entire lower level of this double-decker plane, and premium is in the front, with 2 seats on either side and 4 in the middle. I luckily got bumped up to the first row, so I got a bit more legroom, but I had to put all my stuff in the overhead bin and, well, it barely fit. But the seats were big, an inch bigger than in regular economy, and with 6 extra inches of pitch, or the distance between the back of your seat and the seat in front of you. There was a blanket and pillow waiting for me, and thank God some water, because I am perpetually dehydrated. Each seat comes with a 13.3-inch TV with a remote and control on the armrest. Just like in first and business class, you get noise-canceling headphones that plug into your seat. There are cup holders and a couple of chargers, 1 universal and 2 USB. About an hour into our flight, we got served our first meal. I chose the spicy fish with blue rice called nasi kerabu. I loved that this dish came with lots of sides like cheese and crackers, but to be honest, I didn't like this side. The fish was actually really good. It felt like a really creative meal compared to anything I'd ever eaten in economy. And I'm a sucker for ice cream, so when they came around with this little Haagen-Dazs cup, I was pumped. The service is something I noticed across the cabins. The flight attendants were constantly checking in and eager to help, even in the cheaper seats. But the thing I was most worried about was being able to sleep in economy. And while the headrest didn't fully hold my head, the footrest was a game changer. It flipped out from the bottom of my seat, and there was even a leg rest. Plus, the seat reclined a lot. I did, however, notice there was a pretty big gap between the window seat and the fuselage, so it wouldn't have been easy to sleep against the wall either. Our second meal came about an hour before landing. I got the omelet with some sausages. I did like that the meal was more breakfasty, because we landed in Germany at about 6 a.m., so it helped me adjust to the time zone. I had a nice experience in premium economy, and the 13 hours flew by pretty quickly. Pun intended. I only had one complaint. While the bathrooms were big for economy, I felt like there was always a long line, which I do kinda understand. With space constraints, you can only have a certain amount of toilets 30,000 feet in the air. Next up, business class. I flew this from New York, New Jersey to Singapore.
So we just went through security and we are about to board our flight to Singapore. This is nonstop, the second longest flight in the world.
Right, your seat here, Mr. Naresh, just to your right here.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Sure.
The flight's just shy of 19 hours. And despite the mammoth amount of time, I thought this ride was awesome. We flew on the A350-900 ULR, or ultra long range, because it covers over 9,500 miles. A one-way ticket usually costs around $5,500. And round trip, they can reach over $12,000 on weekends. We were the first group to board because there's no first class on the A350.
And even at 9:30 in the morning, you got your welcome champagne.
The seat was huge. 28-inch width, 60-inch pitch. It felt like a space capsule. I especially loved all the storage, because I am incapable of packing light. Of course you had the overhead bin, but there were all these nooks and crannies for the rest of your stuff.
And then there's some storage down here for your small carry-on.
This door led to a toiletries cubby with a mirror right next to it. Your books could go here, and there are different lights scattered around the seat.
And this is your table. Just need a little power. Pops out like that.
Buttons on the armrest control your seat recline and lights and call the flight attendant. While you're essentially moving in for a day, feeling like I was able to unpack a bit strangely made it feel a bit homier.
So we just took off about 10 a.m. New York time, 11 p.m. Singapore time, and we have just under 18 hours left to go.
45 minutes into the flight, they came by to take orders for the first of 2 meals. The flight attendants like to stick to the set meal time for everyone so the food is fresh. But there is some flexibility.
Say you want to get on the flight and go straight to sleep, you can just tell the flight attendants, like, okay, let me hold my meal service, I'll take it later. And they'll let you do that.
Here you get a whole menu booklet. Then they come around to set the table with linens, real silverware, and a butter plate. And of course, wine. This is when it set in just how fancy this was. It's served on actual china.
Can I get some rolls? Garlic bread?
Oh, garlic bread, please. Thank you.
Everyone got the same first appetizer, a salad with smoked trout. But you can order vegetarian and halal options online before your flight.
And I'm not usually a fan of smoked, well, anything, but except barbecue. And this smoked trout is actually really good. It just tastes super fresh.
Then I ordered the Chinese pork rib noodle soup with wheat noodles and veggies.
So when you're flying, all the noise, the air pressure, and the altitude tend to make your taste buds not work as well, so you just simply can't taste as much. And surprisingly, this is really flavorful. I think the use of these chilies probably helps a lot in pumping up flavor without needing to add extra salt that would bloat you.
And then you get to choose a dessert. I ordered the honey salted caramel almond ice cream, and I was able to snag some cheese.
I scored 2 desserts. I hated blue cheese growing up because it was just like a punch in the face, and this is really good. And I like to think ice cream is entirely its own food group. I love it that much, so if I say it's pretty good, it's pretty good. I mean, I'm getting full, but not stuffed, so I think that they've done a really good job portioning these out and also balancing out the flavors, considering you can't taste a lot when you're in a plane.
After my first meal, I settled in to watch a movie. The TV is supposed to be 15.4 inches wide, and I'm a dork, so I measured it.
It actually looks like it's a little longer than that, so kudos to Singapore.
Then the flight attendant came by to turn the seat into my bed for the next 8 hours. Before 2004, business class on this airline didn't have a lie-flat bed. But now the carrier knows sleep is the #1 concern for passengers, so the big investment in lie-flat tech makes sense and follows a trend across the entire industry.
It's not actually the seat that you're lying on, it's the back of it. So they flip the seat down and there's this probably 2-inch mattress pad on the back of the seat.
I measured the bed later in the flight and it came to about 75 inches.
And if you're a little taller like me, about 5'9", your feet actually have to go at the diagonal. Off to the right here, so if you want to sleep completely flat, you have to put your feet in this little cubby here.
I definitely wished that I was shorter so I could have stretched out completely.
There's also a divider here, so if you're traveling with someone, you can keep it open, but if it's time to go to bed and you want to say goodbye, you can just close it.
The TV screen pops out so you can watch it laying down, but it doesn't come out very far.
So these are the provided noise-canceling headphones, and this, off to your right, is the remote. So you can control everything on the TV. Pick your movie, look at in-flight menus.
The lights are also designed to help you get on Singapore time by the end of your 18-hour flight. There are 16,000 different light settings, so when you first take off,
Right now the lights are set as daytime lights since we just left New York.
about 4 hours into the flight, the lights changed again.
The lights have gone down, so a couple people are watching movies. I'm probably just gonna take a little nap. See you in a bit.
I had a good nap, and we are now in single digits. 9 hours and 59 minutes left.
I woke up super hungry, and I was able to request a light snack. And as those lights slowly came back on, the smell of food started filling the cabin. Not too long after, they came by to take our order for the second meal. And of course, this came with some more wine. First up, the appetizer everyone gets.
This is the citrus grilled shrimp salad, and it has honey glazed walnuts, blackberries, croutons, mixed greens, and balsamic ginger dressing. So this time I got a pretzel bun. Very excited for that. And honestly, the greens in the salad look a little wilted.
And I stood corrected. It was yummy, although I still think the smoked trout won out.
Thank you so much. Wow, it's so big.
For my main course, I got salmon over couscous and sauteed veggies.
The pearl couscous I could do without, and the salmon, pretty standard. It's kind of nice to have a healthy piece of fish that size on a plane. But honestly, you could just give me a whole plate of that vegetable goodness and I would have been happy.
And for dessert, I got an apple cake with berry sauce.
It's like pretty grainy texture, and it sort of just like disappears in your mouth. I definitely think the ice cream was probably double as good as this one is, but maybe I can flag down another scoop of ice cream because that was my favorite.
I did want to show you all the bathroom because it was big and fully stocked.
I think this is some kind of cologne or perfume. Got some hand lotion and a facial mist, toothbrush, and a toothpaste. So in this compartment, we have some air sickness bags, better safe than sorry, hairbrush and a comb, some shaving cream, and a razor.
I headed back to my seat and watched a few more movies. Then, before I knew it,
So we were about 30 minutes from landing. We made it over 18 hours. Honestly, it really wasn't that bad in business class at all. We just arrived in Singapore. We're waiting for our bags. And honestly, all things considered, I'm feeling pretty energized. So I think everything from the food to the service to the bed in the seat, it all made it a really enjoyable flight for how long it was.
and finally the big ticket item, the first class suite. This can be one of the most expensive airline tickets on the planet. Round trip from New York City to Singapore with a layover can cost over $23,000. The airline says most passengers are CEOs or execs and special occasion travelers for birthdays, honeymoons, anniversaries. I flew only half the journey from Frankfurt to New York City, a flight that usually costs about $6,000. This 9-hour route is what's called a fifth freedom flight. It means an airline from one nation, Singapore in this case, is allowed to move passengers between two other countries, the US and Germany. There aren't a lot of these routes because they require approval from 3 countries instead of 2. But they're a cool way to fly some of the world's best airlines without having to go all the way to their home country. And like my premium economy flight, this was also on the massive 2-level A380. Most first-class passengers board on the second level with a whole separate jetway. But I wanted to see the famous A380 stairs, so I boarded on the first level.
Thank you so much.
Morning, Miss Abby.
Hello.
Pleasure to have you on board.
Perfect. Good. I'm very excited.
And I found my seat in 3A. The suite was huge. It legitimately did not feel like I was on a plane. It was more like a mini hotel room. Like many other Asian and Middle Eastern airlines, Singapore has really ramped up its luxury offerings in the last decade, with a focus on design. This suite is 50 square feet and can be fully enclosed. On one side of the suite sits the large lounge chair, 35 inches wide with a whopping 81 inches of pitch. The chair swivels around to 3 positions. First is for takeoff. The second chair position,
Like if I want to go towards the TV, or that's really good for eating.
and the table pops out from the compartment on the wall.
And then this one is so I can utilize the workstation and look out the window. And honestly, I think this might be my favorite part. This little shade. It's so cute. Night-night.
You can also put this chair in a deep recline.
So this is your remote control for the seat, window, plane, TV positions, and this is your remote control for the TV.
The 32-inch TV flips out so I could watch it from my seat. I controlled the TV from the remote in the armrest.
Actually turning on the TV, toggling through your movies. It's for gaming because there's lots of loaded games on the TV. And then this is the search function.
All those controls are also on this tablet.
And this dock here, there's also another one on the other side of the room. In this control panel, pretty similar, you got your attendant call button, do not disturb, moving the seat and moving the TV. And right next to your seat to the left, you have all of your plugs, and your headphones can go in here while you're sleeping, or right here on the armrest while you're watching TV in the seat.
If I thought business class had a bunch of storage, this one blew me away. There was an actual closet.
Like, it's a pretty deep closet. That's the craziest part. Don't even come at me that my first apartment didn't even have a closet.
There are compartments inside the desk.
With this beautiful quilting, so you can put some eyeglasses in here and they won't get scratched, even if there's a little turbulence. And then here you've got a little vanity mirror that pops out. So this countertop here is obviously not real marble because that would be really heavy for a plane, but it's the same coldness that real stone would give you, and they created that effect because they used resin and real stone. And then you have this extra storage down here, which I've utilized for other stuff.
The VP of In-Flight Services told me she designed this space for a Birkin bag.
Which clearly I do not have, but that's what it can be for.
The suite came with an amenities kit as well. Room spray, soap, body lotion, and lip balm.
A little nicer than the Burt's Bees I'm used to.
There were some noise-canceling headphones, just like in business and premium economy, but these ones were fancier.
Don't at me for my fingernails. Nervous habit.
Our first meal service happened about a half hour after takeoff. Just like in business class, I got a menu of dishes to choose from, and the drinks and courses just kept coming.
If you wait a little bit more.
Oh yeah, top me off. Thank you.
First up, the signature chicken satay with peanut sauce.
One thing I do want to note about this table is a lot of first class and business class tables, they fold out in panels, and this one is one giant slab of probably fake wood, but nonetheless, giant slab. And I think that's really cool that it centers on the chair as opposed to being off to one side. Okay, well, let's dig in. So it's not quite as crispy as some other chicken satays I've had, but I'm gonna give them some slack because we are 40,000 feet in the air. And this was probably made yesterday.
A glass of champagne or a glass of wine too?
Maybe some wine, yeah.
Okay.
I'll leave it up to you, what you suggest.
Next up, caviar. I mean, could we get any more fancy?
Cheers.
Then I got some scallops for an appetizer.
Serving scallops with carrot cream, broccolini, radish, and curry nuts.
Oh, you're killing me. I love scallops. The question is, what utensils do I use for this?
Can you tell I'm excited? The scallops were divine. Next up, the beef cheek. But first, some more wine.
Which one do you recommend?
I would recommend to start off, go for the Albert Bishop. This is the grape of 100% Pinot Noir.
Ooh, it's so tender. Wow, that is some super tender meat. Like melt in your mouth kind of tender. That is so impressive. Like, we're literally eating this on an airplane.
And because somehow there was still more food to come, dessert. Oh, and you thought I was done eating?
And these are the accompaniments to go with the cheeses, the grapes, the fig paste, as well as the walnuts and the water crackers.
You have high expectations for how much food I can eat.
It's reported that food for first class can be 20 times more expensive than economy. So is the hefty price tag for food, amenities, and building out this fancy suite worth it to the airline? Singapore says unequivocally yes. And across the industry, airlines tend to see higher yields the more premium the cabin. After my first meal, it was time to change into my pajamas.
That is big. I love an oversized sleeper.
Then I checked out the bigger of the two first-class bathrooms.
Probably one of the most expensive bathrooms in the world, and the largest airplane bathroom I've ever seen. Come on in. I mean, literally, this is like bigger than my first apartment in New York. This bathroom alone.
One thing I was curious about was why Singapore Airlines hadn't invested in a shower like Emirates in its first-class bathroom. And the answer? Weight. All the shower water weighs a lot, which would require the airplane to carry more fuel. So instead, this bathroom has 3 stations.
The toilet section, the vanity, and then the hand washing section. But this room also comes with a ton of amenities. It's very aggressive. So you got some bathroom perfume, facial mist, and some body lotion. And then you got another tiny little amenity drawer here with the hairbrush and a comb, a toothbrush, and I do think that there's toothpaste already in here, shaving cream, and a razor. So you never have to touch the trash can. You have this little flap here you can push down on to open the waste bin. And I've already laid out all of my nice amenities like the moisturizing kit and my pajamas. So I'm gonna get changed. Well, if I didn't feel like an international assassin already, now I got the fit to match.
I stowed my stuff and grabbed some of the sleeping amenities provided in the closet.
Like these little socks, some slippers, like high-end spa. And I think this is an eye cover. Oh my God, it's like velvet.
Then it was time for the thing I was most excited about, the bed. But unlike in business class, your bed is not your seat. There's an entire separate panel that flips down from the wall into a twin mattress. And if you buy 2 suites, you can lower the divider, push the 2 beds together, and enjoy a double bed in the sky. While the mattress was obviously thinner than a hotel one, it somehow was still comfy. And the fact that I could lie completely flat as a 5'9" human felt surreal. Plus, after days of traveling at this point, the fluffy pillows and sheets felt luxurious. Because I got to bed so late, I only had a little over 1 hour to sleep before the flight attendants woke me up for the next meal.
I have to have breakfast now. I'm so tired. Even luxury doesn't offer enough sleep.
Back to the fancy bathroom I went to get changed into my first set of real pants in like 2 days. Then I was getting a little lonely, so I went to make some friends.
So there are 6 first-class suites on this flight, and we've got some pretty awesome neighbors.
How's it going? Hey.
Jimmy, did you have fun in the suite?
Yeah, it was great. Although I slept the whole time.
Was it great or sweet? No?
YouTuber MrBeast and his crew happened to be on our flight.
Hey, Carl. I love this James Bond moment you got.
Oh, hello there, Business Insider.
What's up? How did you like the flight?
It was great. I slept most of it, which was my favorite part. Me and my friend Nolan, we just pulled out, they're like queen-size beds. But then we ended up using like half of it because we just cuddled the whole time.
You cuddled? Aww. The bromance is strong.
Okay, so I heard that you guys have been traveling in a bunch of different first-class suites. How does this one compare?
This is easily the best one. This is
Yeah?
ridiculous. The food was amazing. The size was awesome. There's like 15 TVs right here. And I just get to be for the ride. I didn't even pay for this. Isn't that awesome?
Literally so awesome.
See you later, Business Insider. I'm business out. Cider.
Who knew so many giggles could happen in first class? Just open the barriers and you have no idea what's on the other side.
Finally, it was time for our last meal service. This one wasn't quite as extensive. A simple shrimp and rice soup, because I still was feeling really full. The flight attendant put the bed back up and set my chair in takeoff position. And before I knew it, we were landing in JFK.
Thank you for flying Singapore Airlines, a member of Star Alliance.
So, after 40 hours in the sky with Singapore Airlines, was it worth the hype? Actually, yeah. The service and the food were the biggest standouts, even in premium economy. It's not easy making food taste good from tiny reheating kitchens at 30,000 feet. But the flight attendants were truly my favorite part. No matter the cabin, they made the experience feel classy. Shout out to Ruby. They were sweet, attentive, and brilliant.
We are bilingual. We speak English and Malay Then depending on where your ethnic group is, do that in Chinese or Tamil.
Which leads us to the big question. Were the cabins worth the dough? Look, of course first class was unmatched. But to be honest, my favorite of the 3 flights was business class. I get that a huge point of first class is privacy, but I'm personally way too extroverted to be in a box alone for 9 hours. That's why I had to make some friends. So for me, business class was where it was at. It had the best of both worlds, enough space to stretch out while still feeling fancy. All in all, it felt like the most bang for your buck, and I'm not alone in thinking that. More and more US-based carriers like American Airlines are pulling first-class cabins in favor of investing in more luxurious business classes. So I say, if you have the means, first class is a fun, once-in-a-lifetime experience. And if you're from the US and you want to try it, I suggest booking it quickly. In May 2023, Singapore Airlines is set to pull its A380s with these first-class suites from the US market. The airline is moving these planes to the Australian market to address the post-COVID demand surge there. But don't worry, US-based travelers can still fly the smaller Singapore Airlines first-class seats on the 777s. So if you have to do a super long-haul flight, business class would be your best bet. But even if you land in premium economy, you won't be disappointed.
What's the best joke that you told this whole flight?
I said, this takes layovers to the next level. And if you guys don't see that in the video, wasn't that funny?